Hi, everybody. My name is Dave, hosting as usual in a rare nighttime appearance. I'm like an anti-vampire. I normally only come out during the day, hosting as usual from the northeastern end of the province of Ontario in Canada, where it has been yet another beautiful day. So here we are for the Wish Farm. Let's just, before we do anything else, because we have a lot of people here right now, I normally like to name check and say hi to everybody and the welcome backs and things, but that would probably take me quite a while. So what we'll do is a very brief audio check. If you're over here on Zoom with me, just give me a quick press of that wee button called raise hand, and that'll tell me things are working nicely. If you're over there on YouTube, yeah, Carrie, hello there. Quite a few names I recognize there from, you know what I'm going to say today, I'm going to say this week, I'm going to say last week, I'm going to say last month, I'm going to say other boot camps we've done on Facebook, and I'm going to say some of those names I know from other years. Wook Legend, how you doing there? Budgets with grace. There's a nice phrase to get us into what we're talking about. Hey, Forrest. Yeah, so over here on Zoom, of course, you've got a couple of windows there. Ben says, sounding great. Yeah, I'm also joined by Ben, our awesome, multi-talented, and forever constantly outstanding me with his amazement, with Ben, our social media fella. So hiya, Ben. Thanks for coming along and taking the time to come and look at what might be quite a fast evening in terms of question windows. Oh, wonderful. I'm also going to say, thanks for joining me. I'm not too sure even Ben knows this, but this month, August 2021, it is actually 14 years to the month that I have been a customer of YNAB. Did you know that one, Ben? 14 years. In fact, in not too many days' time, it's going to be 14 years to the day that I have been a YNAB customer. So there you go. Ben says no. Right. Well, speaking of 14, and hello, Melanie, and hello, Wine Hamburgers. Yes, indeed. So speaking of about 14 years ago, what we're looking at right now doesn't seem to have much to do with savings and wish farms and things like that, does it? What we're looking at is kind of more where I started. A lot of you know, if you've been to the debt strategy sessions that we run on the regular workshop channel day in, day out, some of you may know that's what brought me to YNAB. My wife and I, debt, lots of different types. So what's this got to do with wish farming? Well, this kind of explains where money that right now you might be thinking, where can I ever find money for to do something else in my budget? If you've got some kind of debts like we did, this is where it's going to come from. I mean, what we were doing here with these three cards, we were targeting the smallest balance. And yeah, we target the smallest balance so we can get rid of one of the debts as quickly as possible, because every debt we have is taking money off the income we bring in, which leaves us with less to be able to put in other places, to put in other envelopes. So we were targeting the MasterCard there. Then the Amex is set at its minimum. The Visa is set to its minimum. The two personal loans, they're what they are. There is no minimums for them. Then there's the student loan, and then there's their auto loan. So that was where you really feel that pinch of debt. Because there's $1,100 of our income that when it comes in, and we assign it, is basically doing nothing other than paying for things in the past. So of course, one by one, you can start to work on them. One by one, we free up a little bit more money from our same paycheck. And what did we do as we started to kill our first debt, our second debt? Well, what we then started to do was to raise the targets here, to give us more protection against future debt wiping us and putting us back into the same situation. So this is where, and again, some of you have seen me do this, but this is where and why in our own budget, these rule 2 expenses. These rule two, true expenses, this is what we've always called them. To this day, even though we're out of debt now, future debt prevention. How do we break the debt cycle? So wish farming has got nothing to do with putting money away for those things. Those are the things we need to have money ready for. And of course, the fun stuff to keep us in the game long enough. So the first thing we did is we started wiping out one debt and working towards another. We were really focusing on raising these targets, giving ourselves healthier numbers than we could do the first time around. Then, of course, you do another one and another one. And a little bit more of your income is back under your control. And a little bit more income is back under your control. And you've started to raise these to the point where they're starting to be more realistic. You're starting now to feel comfortable, as we did, that we can start to now think about putting money away for things we might actually want, not just things that we actually must do and need to do. And so moving on a few years here, this is like the generations of YNAB passing by here. Now we're looking at something here. We've got the new terminology, the monthly, the non-monthly. We've got the fun stuff as well. So we're going to be able to put the money we were using to service the debt towards things we wanted. But we liked the idea that when we were targeting debt, we had control. We were prioritizing. We were working through it in a systemic and systematic way. We wanted to find a way to be able to do the same thing with savings. We wanted the granularity, the approach that we use for debt. So what we decided upon, as we'd freed up more of our income, we were still going to put money away for the same monthly. Let me turn the targets, the progress view on here. We were still going to need to plan for all of the monthly stuff. We were still going to need to plan for all of that non-monthly, the future debt prevention, just like we did before. Things like putting money away for around the house when the house breaks. There's another one here we talked about today. Many of you heard me talk about, hey, how about long-term planning? This is not a maybe, this is a must. Now, you might think I'm sat here with the roof leaking and buckets and pails full of water, and I'm not, because we put a new roof on this place 2 years ago. But I do know it's only got a 15-year warranty. So before we even think about things that we want, let's do an audit, take an inventory of anything else you can think of here for what must get the money and what needs the money. So let's stick a nice long-term planning target on here. We did the roof 2 years ago. It's only got a 15-year warranty. Anything happens in the next 13 years, I don't pay for. However, at the stroke of midnight, bong, hey, honey, what was that sound? That was the sound of the roof falling off. And we're out the warranty, 5 minutes. So we have something to plan around here. It cost me $4,000 2 years ago. Let's say 50% inflation. Between now and when the warranty expires, we took money away for all sorts of things. Here's another one. And I've got 13 years notice. We did it in April 2 years ago. It's going to be 2034. And there's the key to starting to do this. Do small amounts. What's just happened there? Let me just, oh, that's what's just happened here. Could I just ask those of you to give me a quick raise of the hand if you can hear me right now? I want to see if this is whether this is a YNAB server connection I've lost or whether this is a Dave's internet connection I've lost. Because up here, I am proud to be able to be a customer of Rogers Telecom. Any of you in Ontario may have heard of them. In fact, Canada. I am a proud user of their updated piece of string and 2 paper cups telecom system. But it looks like I can't blame this one on Rogers. Let's have another little go. That's why I'm getting better, I think. You know why it's got better? Hey, Malene with a Canadian flag there tells me you may be aware of them. Cheers for those of you letting me know. You know why it's got better? It's got better because it's now correctly calculated that with all that time I've got to get ready for something that's necessary, it's only going to be $39.22 a month. And it's a great place to be able to pull money from. If in the next 11 years I need to pull money for something else, it's a great category to pull from. So give yourself a little bit of an inventory, give yourself a little bit of an audit as to whether there are any things you can think of that you still must really be putting money away for. Okay, lovely. Now then, Wish Farm. So now we're starting to think about all the things we may want. All the things that previously the money was being used to target debt and all the other good stuff. So welcome to the Wish list. This is where we just capture everything we may ever come across for whatever reason, wherever we are, that we may at some point want to spend money on. Pretty broad, right? We don't have to do any research. We don't have to know the price. We don't have to have picked a brand. This is just a place to capture a bunch of information in a place that we regularly look at, because, hey, we all regularly look at our budget, right? Especially before we spend, remember? So we could capture this kind of stuff while we were out and about. I mean, I could jump over to my phone here. We could say that, yeah, my wife and I, let's use the one-stop shop here. Look at this beautiful button we now have. I don't have to show you 3 different places to do this. We're just going to hit that one-stop button on the new app. I'm going to scroll down. This is me and my wife. We're on the way back from a night out at a friend's. We stayed over. There was beautiful coffee in the morning. We asked them how they made such great coffee. They told us the secret is the grinder. So my wife's driving back home now and I'm sat in the passenger seat and we just go, I got no idea. I think they said it was about $150 or something. Well, let's just get it on the list. So I pull out YNAB and I use it just as a little list of things that we've had any kind of conversation about. We could do this while we see a commercial. As I say, talking to friends. We don't even have to do anything in terms of amounts or targets. We've done no research. All I'm going to do is give it a broad categorization with either S, M, or L. And everyone's got their own values as to what small should be and medium should be and things. But this one for us, we're going to class as an S. Done. So we've captured it conveniently. We've captured it at the point we suddenly go, you know what, we may want one of those one day. And that's all we're doing here with the wish list. We're just capturing stuff. And I can also hear, of course, from the one-stop shop. Do a little bit of dragging and dropping. We'll just sort them into SML order here, right down at the bottom. Oven trays are up there small. Maple sap evaporator. I had no idea until I came to Canada how much maple sap it takes to make a gallon of maple syrup. If you've done it, you know the answer. Anybody know the ratio? You can type over to me. Let's see if we've got any maple sap makers here. Catherine has a guess at 4-to-1. Well, let's just say you could be about half right. 10-to-1. Okay, I'll tell you, it's 40-to-1. So Catherine, you were quite right with half of it. Yay, there we go. Tisha's got it, 40-to-1. Catherine, you were half right because you got the 4, you just didn't get the 0. So when I do it right now, I do it with logs and I do it with wood, and there's a nice propane one that I might decide. But you see how it's not a true expense? I've got a method of doing it already. It's an addition to me to be able to do a propane driven one. Hey, see you, Work Legend. You take care of yourself. We'll do a bit more of this sorting here now. Cork flooring downstairs. That's so we don't have to hit the patter, pitter constantly of dog feet on wood. Many dogs. We'll drag that down to the bottom there. We got those deck chairs for the back deck. We'll grab that up a little bit. That little Raspberry Pi, we'll get that up towards the top as well. Just not quite far enough. And there we go. So yeah, we just got a convenient place there to be able to add stuff and all the rest. So that's great. We got a whole list of things that we're thinking of using money for. And we are, of course, back to being able to assign. And I'm simply going to hit the button, just hit the assign button. It knows the date orders and the rest of it. So for the sake of this, I'll say this money's all coming in. We take care of all the basics as we have been doing while we're getting out of debt. We take care of the monthly. We take care of the non-monthly that must get the money. We take care of the fun stuff. Although, yeah, this money could very easily be money we pull to be able to advance the cause of saving money for something on the wish list. So before I go any further, you can throw me some hands in the air if you're all comfortable. You can throw us some questions. You can throw us some chat. If you're over on Zoom, of course, chat you can set to everybody, as a few of you have done. Let's just make sure you're all comfortable with the steps so far. The hands in the air are telling me, yeah, lovely. We'll get on to the spending a little bit later. Don't you worry for now. We're just going to now refine what we're going to save for. This is where, finally, the wish farm turns up. And being a farmer in the real world, as Ben will tell you, a small farmer, I should say, about 5'9". But no, Ben will tell you that a lot of my examples and analogies that I try to use to see life come through the farming spectacles, right, Ben? It's always well, you know what I always think when I'm looking out on the dawn sky over. So yeah, a lot of my examples come from that. So this is where the wish farm comes in. Let's get ourselves another group in here, because this wish farm is where we grow seeds that are going to become things we want. And we're going to manage them at a nice detailed level, modular level, which is how we got out of debt. And I'm just going to drag it down here beneath fun. I mean, beneath the things that must, beneath the things that need, beneath the things that I'm going to want to still have, just above all the things, we'll drop it there. I'm getting better at that as well. So what goes in the wish farm? Well, my own personal setup is that there's only really enough room in the wish farm for 3 seeds. 1 S for small. There's only room for a medium, just 1 M for medium, and only 1 L. L is either large or look how much that costs, depending on your perspective. And the reason we decided there was only going to be enough room for 1 of each is because we found ourselves constantly meeting the small ones at the expense of everything else. The temptation, that impulse gene that you've either got or you're not, you know, that impulse genes, you temper it with the budget. But hey, if you've got money set aside for the coffee grinder, well, what about if you wanted that money to buy the oven tray? Well, we'll just do that one and that one. And then the other stuff never seemed to get money. So by limiting it to 1 small, medium, and large, we gave ourselves the chance to be able to save for multiple level things, short, medium, and long term, you could even call it. So how do we decide which get in? Fix the roof on the chicken coop and teach a software tutorial all in 1 hour. Well, apart from when I fell off the roof of the chicken coop 3 days before I was due to fly out to meet you all and got myself a concussion and then wasn't allowed to fly. Other than that, Ben, you're absolutely correct. I knocked my noggin as I announced in the chat at work. Yes, indeed. So how do we, and by we, I mean my wife and I, how do we decide, you know, which one of these many ever growing list of things that which one of them make it into the farm? Well, sometimes it's done just by discussion. You know, we will occasionally agree on things, which is a really good reason, given that we live in the middle of nowhere and both live and work here. So yeah, sometimes we just agree, and that's great. That coffee grinder, fantastic. Let's get making great coffee. Let's get that prioritized. Sometimes we take it in turns. I'll do the small one, you pick the next one, and so on. Sometimes we'll turn it into a game. We play backgammon a few times a week, and whoever wins first to 10 on backgammon, which will always be her, gets to pick the next one. That's her favorite method of selection, for example. So however you want to do it, think of one small, one medium, one large. And we've decided to go for the coffee grinder. We've decided to go for the gaming monitor. And we've decided to go for this little project of mine, a bit of solar hot water into the mix. And that's it. Now there is a rule, however, about when you think about something being put in the Wish Farm. There's a rule that you've got to have done the research first. You've got to have picked the brand. You've got to have picked the model. You've got to have checked availability. You've got to know what it costs. Because, of course, once you're in the Wish Farm, now we're into the realms of targets. So how would we go about thinking of this? Well, the solar hot water tank. Let's get a target in here. A balance is very appropriate for this one. I know approximately what it's going to be. Panel, tank. I think I can do the installation myself. I've just not told my wife that yet. $1,200 I think we're going for. What's the priority for it? Well, we're heading out of the peak summer. We're heading into the fall. We're heading into the Canadian winter. Going to be something like I don't want to be thinking about being on the roof in case I do knock my noggin again, Ben. And so I'm thinking next spring is probably going to be the earliest, going to be the most useful. So I'm thinking that one somewhere around about May next year. What's that working out at? 120 a month. Okay. What's the most important out of these? Well, given we drink a lot of coffee, we've researched the one we're looking for. It's $150. So let's try and do this one as quickly as possible. Let's do 75 fixed monthly builder instead. That gets us it in a couple of months. Nice. We'll have a go at that. And then the gaming monitor, well, what's it going to cost to do these two? And probably what we can afford is the other one. So we got 195 going in there. Yeah, I reckon we can do about maybe another 80, 90, 100 a month here, fitting in with everything else. So we'll do another fixed one on this. We'll do 100 monthly savings. And that's what it's going to cost to fund the Wish Farm. So this is why we don't have to be completely out of debt before you start doing this. Treat yourself somewhere along your debt repayment journey. If you're going to be using debt money to fund it, treat yourself somewhere along the journey. See how much it's going to take to be able to run a farm. 295. Have you deserved it? Are you in a 10-year debt repayment journey and you're 3 years through? Hey, give yourself a little bit of a break. It's a marathon, right? Not a sprint. So we have selected our 3 targets for the Wish Farm, small, medium, and look how much that costs. We have set appropriate goals, targets to plan for those 3 goals we want to achieve in life. Cheers, Tisha. Hey, don't forget, those of you using chat, it's lovely that you are. Zoom, however, doesn't remember that you may have wanted to send it to everybody in the past. It doesn't remember that when you come into Zoom again. So if you were thinking about sending that to all, just a little reminder there. So let me just check in again. How's everybody doing so far? Do you get that we get this wonderful granularity along the way? Because we're thinking of specific things, and we're getting the difference in time scales because we've got one small, one medium, one large. You let me know there, any comments, any chat. Let's just see how we're doing. Because Tisha said, that's my fellow Ontarian. YouTube, are you doing okay over there? Just want to make sure you're comfortable. Hey Ben, this is my first time on YouTube, so you need to let me know. Does that same 15-second kind of 20-second delay that happens when I do Facebook stuff, is it the same over here? There's plenty of people who have got this knowledge. Yeah, it's about 20 seconds, 20 seconds or so. Okay. Heather, over on Q&A. That's a great place to type if you want to guarantee that I see it. Heather says, are you okay if you don't hit the month's target? Absolutely. Because if I don't hit that target, it means that there's somewhere further up the budget that got a bit more money this month than it needed normally, like my vet category. You might think after 14 years of putting money away for things, my vet category would have all that it would ever need. But yeah, I cap categories when they reach a comfortable amount. And when 3 or 4 dogs get into a porcupine in one go and the porcupine always wins, there's somebody else who always wins. The vet. So sometimes, yeah, even after years and years and years and years of YNABing, you still need to do a bit of rolling with the punches. Because most of us are not going to leave cash lying around in bank accounts for all sorts of expenses that we've never seen before. It's a one-off, right? It's perfectly okay if I miss some of those targets. They will, of course, adjust. They will, of course, adjust up and down based on whether I'm ahead or behind. Oh, cheers, Catherine. Every time I take a workshop on this, I totally get it. And then when I start to think about it, I get bogged down in the details. And this time I'm taking notes. Good for you, Catherine. You shout up if there's anything I can reiterate a bit more. Serena. Yeah, I quite agree with Catherine as well, Serena. Yeah, Ben also makes a great point that there has been plenty of times there, Ben, when, as Ben says, do you ever run an audit on your wish list? Because sometimes I find that it gets a little cluttered and there's stuff in there that I don't want anymore. Yeah, I've changed my mind about things when I've had the chance to have to save up. Let me know if any of you have been doing this long enough to have experienced it, but have any of you carefully and diligently and excitedly put money into an envelope month after month after month until you've finally got the money for the thing that you've been saving up to buy, and then you find it really hard to actually spend the money on the thing that you've been looking forward to? Anybody else been in that situation? Hands going up in Zoom aplenty. Serena, yes, yeah, all the time. Right, that's a really good thing. It buys us a chance to dodge the impulse. It buys us a chance to negate the special magic applied by marketing people to our brains. And that must be the only reason. It cannot be anything to do with my lack of willpower, I am sure. So yeah, we have a chance. We have a chance to be able to accumulate over time. And then when you spend, you either spend with such confidence and love that you go, oh, I'm so glad I saved up for this first. This is wonderful. No debt and I've got the thing. Or just before you spend, you go, there's a couple of things that have been added to the wish list since we first put those into the farm. Is there something more maybe that right now we may have put some money away towards these things, right? I can't do everything right now here. So yeah, I'm going to hit it in priority order. Let's just get this one. And now I'm facing again that priority decision, or I might decide to do what I've done on many occasions, come and decide that something down here is more important to me right now than something in the fun stuff. Maybe I'll pull that money out and use it towards the gaming monitor. There's my reward for not spending in one place. Or gaming monitor, I should have made sure, not gaming, that's where it came from. Gaming monitor. There we go, there's a bit of a boost. That only needs another 70, so let's take care of that one. And we're gonna have a little bit towards this. And there you go, Heather P. 2 Heathers. Heather P, there you go. Do I feel bad that I just did that? No, I feel great that I just did that. There you are. Need to put a bit more in. And if I don't, the target will adjust upwards. So as Ben was saying, yeah, sometimes there's a chance to audit an inventory and take stock of all of the things that previously, in whatever heat of the moment you added. We just saw a great commercial for something in the 3 minutes between the Super Bowl. That's me sold. Add it to the wish list. And then 6 months later, I'd forgotten about it. That kind of thing, right, Ben? So yeah, the long answer was that. The short answer is yes. Let's take a little look here. Ben's saying, yeah, that was happening to me with a second car safe for 10 months. And then realized we only needed one car. Yeah, Ben was just looking over at YouTube and letting me know, how do you cap a category? I stopped putting money in it. That's it. So things like auto maintenance, once you get past a certain number of thousands, you might go, yeah, there's other things I'll start to fund now. I mean, you can always bring the money back from the other things when you need to, like I can when the dogs meet the porcupine and the vet win. Well, there comes a point where we cap. So how do I cap? I just stop putting money in. But yes, I do something in the structure of the budget. I like using things like the structure of the budget to reflect where I stand. So here's what I do. I have a capped category. And I set a target to build up the money for the vet and to build up the money for car maintenance and all that stuff. Let's drag it down here. It's going to sit just underneath the non-monthly, like that. And then whenever a non-monthly reaches its target, like that roof category, for example, when it gets its 6,000, when the auto maintenance reaches 3, when the vet reaches 4, but I've got a lot of dogs, when the computer replacement reaches whatever I've gone away and researched I could replace my machine for at today's market prices. There's a little other way to do an inventory, right, Ben? Constantly reassess the monetary targets you've set on these items. Because the chances are, if I've been putting money away for a replacement laptop for more than 6 months, the laptop I was thinking of replacing it with 6 months ago would not be the same price as the laptop I'd be replacing it with to do it today. So we can do an inventory that way as well. Come back and reassess your targets and the same way. So what I'll do when one of them reaches its limit, I mean, let's say I get lucky. Let's say in 15 years and 5 minutes, the roof does not fall off the farmhouse. I'll have $6,000 in that category. I simply remove the target and I drop it under capped. And then I'll do the same thing when the vet envelope reaches its cap. And then when I have to spend on the vet, I'll drop it back under the non-monthly and I'll set myself another target. And I will then set myself the job of replenishing it, right? So yeah, that's what I mean when I say cap a category. I just consider it a gradually reducing benefit to having more in there, knowing I've got lots of others to be able to take from. Let's have a little looking here. Heather B, the other Heather there on Zoom. Do you move the item to its corresponding category? Do you move the item to its corresponding category when you make the purchase, or do you log the transaction as Wish Farm? We've got the perfect solution for that now, Heather. Because of course there is a downside to this method I'm showing you here, with lots of little small individual envelopes that I've captured on car rides back from friends' parties, adding coffee grinders. And the downside, of course, is it's very fragmented. We've got a little way to be able to deal with that. I'll show you that shortly. Let's take a peek here. Yeah, I sometimes need help to purchase the item when I've got the money, says Forrest. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, right? That's a wonderful instinct to have, I think, because at least we're pausing and questioning. Do you know what it was for me, Forrest? It was buying a barbecue grill. For the first time when I came here, I had a deck that had a covered deck. Whereas in the past, the only way my barbecues survived was if I remembered to bring them inside when they were hot, get up 2 hours later at 2 o'clock in the morning to close them and bring them under the cover and put the cover on, which if I'd done it earlier would melt. And if I didn't do it straight away, then it gets rained on, then it goes rusty, and then the wheels drop off. So I'd never ever trusted myself with any decent kind of grill, but I like to cook. I used to be a cook in one of my previous lives in the UK. So I like to cook. It's what got me into farming. And now suddenly I've got a covered deck. So what I started to do was put money away towards a pretty nice grill, a Napoleon grill, as it happens. There's another one for the Ontarians, especially the one I know who is from Barrie, Ontario, because Napoleon is just down the road from you. So I saved up for a Napoleon grill, and it was really hard to spend the money. Did I spend the money? Yes. Did I spend it straight away the minute I'd put the last dollar in? No, I agonized over it. What else could we do with that? Do we still think that it's the best use for this money? And in the end, we did it. So Forrest, if you're having trouble kind of making that final decision, that's a good thing. And if you're in any doubt, don't do it just yet. Sleep on it. Don't need to commit, right? We've got the money. We can still keep funding something else. We can sit and wait. I've also known a lot of people who have come across far better deals by sitting back and waiting a little. So don't worry too much about that one. I think it's a healthy habit. I think it's a really healthy habit. Let me just take a look at this one. I created the wish list, says Carrie, didn't do the wish farm. That's okay. You've been collecting the things that you might want to think about. And it might well be, if you've not been narrowing them down the way I've done with the farm, it might well just be you've watered things down, but you've still been putting money away for things reliably, right? You haven't lost the chance to do what we can now see done here with the farm part. Because if you've got a bunch of money and things set aside into a whole load of stuff, feeling a bit dispirited that it's right watered down and you never actually quite reach anywhere, don't worry. The little thing I'm going to show to solve Heather B's problem as well, which is when we have accumulated the money and spend it, it means you can do any kind of consolidation at any time. So don't worry about that one. Serena recently saved for decor in a new home, then couldn't stand spending $30 on pillows. I spent 45 minutes in the store negotiating with myself over the cost of the pillows. Now there is Ben again with his auditing, with his doing his inventory. There is Forrest again, having a chance to think, a chance to change our mind before we hand over money. Because you know what we've just experienced there, both of you and a few others who were talking? We've experienced what it used to be like before debit cards and credit cards. Now, you may be very lucky to be young enough never to remember the time before then. I do. I remember wearing short trousers, walking down the street with my mum back in the UK, going into shops to buy things, the butchers, the newspaper, the whatever, the grocers, the general store. But where did you go first? The bank. And then you take out money. And then you go to the grocers and you pick up your grocers and you're paying cash. And then you do the same. And then along comes plastic and electronic banking. And somewhere we have a disconnect that it's actually still handing over money or creating debt when we waved a bit of plastic. So yeah, both of you there, when you say they're about resenting spending a bit more, and you say they're about help purchasing the item, well, we've just recreated with YNAB the feeling that we used to have when we had to first walk to the bank to take out the dollars, to put into an envelope, to go to the barbecue place, the grill place in my case, and you feel the weight of the money as you're handing it over. That's a good thing. A chance to change our mind, right? Serene says, even though I've got 4K in the budget for furniture, right? But you've got a feeling of value now. You've got a feeling it took hard work and time. You've appreciated and savored it as it accumulated. Is it any wonder that we get a little protective about it before we wave goodbye to it? And that's not a bad thing. Catherine, I feel I've got categories that need to be wish list items, totally need to clean things up. I waffle about putting money in them already, so I know they aren't must or needs. That, I think, again, comes back to Ben's excellent point about an audit. Maybe have a little 5 minutes to sit down every morning, cup of coffee. Maybe you're doing your reconciliation to get that feeling of financial yoga in the morning. Everything reconciles. Maybe when you're doing that, take 5 minutes to also think whether there's anything that you consider right now that you consider to be a must or a need, and reevaluate whether it really is a want. I'm kind of a little bit that way with my maple sap evaporator, because I know I can do it with wood. It's just that wood takes a lot of effort. Wood takes a lot of time, effort, chopping, storing, you know? So yeah, reevaluate maybe truly in your life what is the must, what is the need. Couple of Napoleon fans there as well. Seren, how do you get over the mental hurdle though? This is difficult and I end up living in austerity. Well, I could rephrase that, Seren. You may have just realized when you get this utter control and visibility and clarity that we get, and where does the clarity in a YNAB budget come from? Scarcity. It comes from dealing only with the money you've got, no matter how many of dollars. So I'm going to say what you've realized, Seren, is priorities. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you used to spend your money on that now you simply realize you'd rather have the money for something else. That's a state of mind you've achieved there. So really, come on there, Seren. It's not that you're living in austerity. It's you're choosing not to spend money on stuff that previously you easily spent on. That's positive. Don't worry about that. I mean, give yourself that final checklist, just like I'll be doing before I buy the coffee grinder after I've saved up another month and then spending money, and we'll show the last little piece of this. Give yourself a final check. Is this absolutely right now still the best use of my money? If the answer is no, or I'm not sure, don't spend the money. Maybe you're feeling that way because you haven't quite got money for car maintenance or home maintenance that you're comfortable with. That's okay. Once you've funded the wish, still don't buy it, not just yet. Use the money that you're no longer giving to the wish to start to hit some of your non-monthlies a little bit. Maybe that might help you then make the decision that, you know what, I can safely buy the grill. I can safely buy the grinder. So maybe something there for you, Forrest, and maybe something there for you, Seren. Yeah, Lucas, sorry if I joined. Yeah, no problem, Lucas. Any tips on putting money towards multiple wish items? Yeah, this ties very, very, very much in with the, I've had the list for ages. I've never focused with the farm. So yeah, Lucas, what I decided to do here in my own life when this was being done somewhere around about 2015, 16, was coffee grinder, gaming monitor. But what really I'm doing is one small, one medium, one large. Them's the rules for us. There's no reason for you to have them as well. But that's what my wife and I used. It meant that we weren't constantly buying small stuff, never getting the bigger stuff. You all right, Lucas? Tisha says, is it just me or is the wish list endless? The wish list is endless until we decide we never want to buy another thing ever again that's optional. I've been adding to mine forever because my life doesn't stay the same. I also achieve some. We'll be doing that in just a moment. Thanks for all this conversation. This is wonderful. Very true. Thanks to YNAB. I wish I knew what I wanted. I'm looking forward to starting a wish farm and just throwing everything I love on it at the same time and see. Do it the way that works, right? What's worked so far is YNAB. Just do it the same way. Recognize that we're assigning dollars. We've got recognize we can change our mind. And why can we change our mind about what our dollars are doing? Because of one thing. We only ever assign the dollars on payday, and on payday, it's a guess. On payday, we feel the way we feel. Wednesday, middle of the week, when I'm still not drinking great coffee, get it out of the gaming monitor. Let's get that grinder, for blinking sake. We could have great coffee starting today. Why wait? So then we get to this point. Let me just skip forward again. Thanks for all of that in the middle there. Let's just skip forward to where we've got this. We'll have them as soon as your screen catches up. We're still hitting, of course, the monthly stuff. We're still hitting the non-monthly that's essential. We're on track towards the things like home maintenance. And what's home maintenance for? Home maintenance is for, in my life, fixing or replacing anything that we've already got. Once it's crossed the threshold, it's done, fixed, repaired, replaced by maintenance. Cheers, Catherine. You take care of yourself. So at that point, we're putting money away there like any other non-monthly expense. So here now we finally get to Heather. What do we do though when we come to spend? Well, I've assigned the non-monthly, the monthly, the rest. We've got another final $75, I think, to be able to get that grinder. We'll take care of that. Lovely. We're going to be able to buy now. We've reached our target. The $53.99 I'm going to drop in onto one of my larger ones. That gaming monitor I'm starting to question. But even if I do pull it out, we'll have $175 head start on whatever replaces it. We would have replaced it maybe with this, the luxury of a timer for there, but yeah, we're good. We've done it. We got 75 for the coffee grinder. So here we go. How do we get the wonderful granularity, the named envelopes, the control over the goal targets we set to be able to achieve those things? How do we get all of that without ending up with 1,076 hidden categories? Because you know when you've budgeted, you know when you've assigned, you know when you've, well, we don't want to go deleting that stuff. There's going to be history, isn't there? And then a wonderful couple of months ago, the solution to all of this was made a lot simpler. We don't have to pull money out before we spend. We don't have to fiddle around transferring the money to something else. No, all we need to do is this. Number one, yes, I have home maintenance to repair or replace the things I've already got. And here's where we play the game of definitions. This is going to be the big, broad category that is never, ever going to be given money via a target, because the only way this can ever get money is if we've saved for it in the wish farm in lovely detail. So now here's what we can do. Heather, ready? Heather B. And a couple of others. What we're going to do is we're going to record the spending wherever we record the spending. This is at Coffee World. Spending from the coffee grinder category, $150. We've successfully decided, finally, we are going to spend the money. We're comfortable with everything else. We spend the money. But we're not going to want reports on coffee grinder spending. Hey, here is your 12-month rolling average of spending on solar hot water systems. Well, I might argue that not is particularly useful. So now, courtesy of development, the sort of which led me to lose my connection some moments ago. the wonderful continuous improvement. What we now do to tidy all this up, to avoid having to hide dozens or hundreds of categories over time, to avoid having reports that tell me about reports on coffee spending. No, what we will do is we will simply delete the coffee grinder, and we will be prompted. And we will be prompted. I said, okay, not delete. Thank you for that spot. Let me do it again. I'm not too sure I did, because now I've not got it. Let me do a little thing here. We did have a YNAB Wednesday workshop server update, but let me do it again. Carrie is part of the idea behind this, to slow down of the spending on wants. The idea is to clarify out of many, many, many things we may casually want and list in the wish list, which ones we actually take to the point of going to the trouble and the time of putting money away for. And in order to cross that line from wish list to wish farm, we have to do the research. We have to have done enough to be able to set a target and accumulate the money for it, knowing what model we're going to buy, right? So it's a way of just honing it down a little. So let's just do this one once again. Coffee grinder, we put 75 extra in. We've spent the 150 there. Nothing in the envelope. There we go. I'm able to delete, and I will be prompted at the point, if I'd pressed it correctly the first time, what do you want to do with the history? The history of assigning the dollars to accumulate the money, and the history of the spending you've just done. Well, this is what home improvement is for, the big catch-all bucket that I want to report on. We're going to move everything to do with that over into improvement. Now we can delete coffee. Now we play a game of backgammon, which I inevitably lose. And then we're into deciding what's going to replace it from the wish farm, the wish list in the wish farm. So Heather, does that make sense there? You can simply record the spending. That way you don't have to remember to do anything like you used to have to do. And then do the consolidation of the spending into the higher level group, into the higher level category. And there we go. Yeah, it's only been available that way. Yeah, and Ben, I was just thinking the same thing. I think I got a little bit off with the selection there. Making a home improvement category after the seam. You know what it uses? Yeah, I think Ash, you're also of the, Ash is also part of the, oh, you can do that now. Catherine as well, so much easier than the previous method. Delete and merge, that's the phrase, right, Ben? Yeah. You can do that kind of consolidation. So right earlier on, we're talking about, well, is it too late to have done the wish list thing? I've already got a bunch of money in the wish list, but I haven't ever done the wish farm bit. Well, you see what you could do now. You could basically just transfer into your choice of 3 selected targets to go for. You don't have to worry about deleting stuff that way. It's funny, right, Ben? Don't know if any of you remember Ben. Ben was also a teacher before he found his true seat at the table over on social media, and his true seat at the table, I guess I should say. Isn't it wonderful, Ben, over the years, how things we used to go, oh, it's that question. Right, so you want to do some setting of targets on the phone app, eh? Well, you click this if you want to change that, but not this. Then don't forget to use that if you want to move this, but don't use it for that. No, don't ever use it for that. And don't delete that, no. And then suddenly over time, as we get more and more feedback from the wonderful people, some of which are here as well, as we get more and more of that, it's like, oh, this is so much better. A one-stop shop for editing mobile. So, Carrie, are you comfortable there? It's kind of one of the things that you can use a wish farm for, is to sort of slow things down a little, just as you're about to actually commit to, in my case, buying the coffee grinder. There's still that last minute check. Just that last minute check. Is this still what I want now finally to spend? And the reason why I say it's like a last stop check is because suppose then you decide there's something else. It's not like you're throwing the money away for the coffee grinder and burning it. Well, I guess I wished I could have made my mind up better earlier. Now we've got to burn that pile of money. No, we're going to be taking the money out of the coffee grinder and using it as a $150 head start on the thing we've just realized we'd actually like more. That's the flexibility. It's like rule 3 flexibility. So Yas was just saying you can delete used categories. Oh, yes, you can. And then you will reprioritize, reallocate, reassign everything that's gone on in them to somewhere else. And yes, Ash, it does. It does change the category on the transaction in the ledger. It'll do it for the whole of the history. It'll do it also for the assigning of dollars you've done in previous months. It'll deal with the fact that maybe you took some dollars out along the way. It is all now handled through the category I've dropped it all into, which is the only gets it money that way, home improvement. Category cleanup time. Great stuff, Heather. Yeah, thank you very much indeed for coming along. Let me take a little look here. Do you write down, Heather P, do you write down what each category means, definition for you, i.e. home improvement versus home maintenance? I generally try to be very simple-minded about it. My wife often describes me that way. Here's my husband, Dave. He's a little bit simple-minded. Now, of course, what she really means, I'm sure, I am minded generally to try and simplify at all opportunities. So if I can do with 2 what I might choose to think of as doing with 5 categories, I'll do 2 if I can. And I'll live with 2. So for the home, if you get your definitions right, and this is what I mean by a game of definitions, it's what they mean to you, but try and make them mutually exclusive. So there's no, is it this or is it that? But then try and make the 2 of them collectively exhaustive. So there's no need then to think of a third. So if I do that with maintenance for the home and improvement for the home, I can make sure it is exclusive by saying, this is only for replacing and fixing things I've got. No argument about that. This one is only for getting more stuff. There's only 2. Between them, something can't be both, but between them, everything must be one of the other. You can do it with cars as well. You can think about the things you have to spend money on for your car. You can think about then the things that you don't know, like the repairs. So I'm a big fan of simplicity that way. So if you can start simple everywhere where you have a choice, don't do what Dave did 14 years ago. Don't create hundreds of categories, because somewhere in my mind I got confused that, hey, if I'm going to take this seriously for a first time, got to make it really complicated, because hey, that's the way I'm going to stick to it, right? I know what I'll do. I'll make it more complicated. Hey, Dave, you have a chance to make it more time consuming there. Great. Let's make it more complicated and more time consuming. Surely that is the only reason I have not stuck to these before. No, keep it simple. Don't try and anticipate every bit of complexity that you may think you're going to need. Start simple, then let complexity earn its place. It'll start to shout out at you from certain key places. Don't try and anticipate where and start complicated. Start simple, start broad. Let the complexity earn its place. Making me want to go and play with my budget. I've been a little tad lackadaisical of late. Hey, I see a very, very specific credit card session. We would certainly take that in a regular credit card session. I'm not particularly geared up to say it. So let me just first of all, so you don't need to remember anything, let me just show you how you can find the answer to your question if you need to find out about it really quickly, like you've just got some cash back. So we can hit the little help button there where you can get in touch with the team, and we'll just search for cash back. And you'll see there's a little guide that will take you through a couple of ways that it may affect you. There are two. Let me describe them to you. I haven't got the setup for them. When you receive cashback rewards from your credit card company, you're going to record them in the credit card account just like they do. You're going to record them as an inflow just like they do. You're going to give them the category ready to assign. That's how you're going to record the transaction. Treat it like recording income, except it's income to a credit card. And then if you owe them money at that point, we will do exactly what happens in the real world. That cashback reward does one thing and one thing only. They tell me what I'm going to do with it. They reduce my balance outstanding with it. I don't get the choice. So generally speaking, that's what's going to happen. We'll have some kind of balance on the card, say $1,000. We get $150 of cashback rewards. The only things that you'll see happen in YNAB is that we'll be $850 owing. They've chosen what to do. So don't worry, we've got you. There is one other case. You'll read about it on that link. Suppose the cashback that they give me actually gives me a positive balance on my credit card. Well, then I'll have some dollars to be able to assign to anything I want. So that's the way it works. To answer your question, as asked, that's the way it works. We've got you covered both ways. Check out that little guide there using the online help for the details. Let's take a little look here. That's the header taken care of there. Wonderful. Cheers, Ben, for stopping me having to watch another 6 windows, worrying I'm missing people because things are scrolling off the screen. Big thanks to Ben. Cheers, Carrie. Goodbye for now. Yeah, don't ever feel you need to stick around. If there are things still coming into me, I'm going to keep taking them, but don't ever feel you need to stick around. Thanks, Ben, for taking care of Eric there as well. Roman, perhaps not exactly related to Wish Farm, but I keep spending money on fun money, and I guess it's all about prioritization, accountability, determination. There's 2 ways you could be doing that one, Roman. You could be spending money the way you always have spent money before, and then be recording the spending in YNAB or importing the spending into YNAB. If we're spending according to these bank balances, the way it's sometimes tempting to do, what's the problem? The problem is we don't change anything. Because if we've always spent according to bank balances and we carry on spending according to bank balances, nothing will change. We will simply see overspending in the budget the way we always have done with spreadsheets and software. And then we will be constantly pulling money out of things like the vet category to cover the pizza we bought on Friday. We didn't know we were spending the vet money at the time because we were looking at the bank balance that says 300,650. The bank balance tells me the pizza was no problem. Then I buy a game on Steam because the bank balance tells me there's no problem. More fun money spending. And I realize too late when the transaction imports, I've just spent some of my car maintenance money on the game. And then I come to buy some clothes and you know where I'm going. The question you need to ask yourself is, would you still have spent the money if you knew you were spending the vet money on the game, if you knew you were spending the lasagna money, which was actually car maintenance money? Would you have still done it? So, Roman, what I'm going to ask you to do is a little challenge, if you're not already doing it. Look at the budget before you ever give your money to anybody else for anything at all. Because if I'm thinking of buying a $40 game on Steam, let's just test this out. Let's have a little poll. This is pre-YNAB Dave. This is me 14 years ago. How many of you with that much in the bank would say a $40 game on Steam is no problem? Hands up who's buying. See you, Courtney. Hands up who's buying the game for $40 with 3,600 bucks in the bank the day after payday. Yeah. Enablement is what that number is. Enablement. It enables me to continue to spend the way I've always spent money. It also tells me the shirt's okay, the jeans are okay. Tells me the lasagna is okay. And Roman says, yeah, indeed, I'm willing to budget, but I kind of actually track expenses and using the third rule to move. Right, so here we go, Roman. Here's the big shift for you. Don't do that. If you have done other software and spreadsheets before and they've never really delivered for you, it's because we were still spending money by going, I can afford the game, I can afford the food, I can afford the clothes. Now, clearly, if it hasn't worked in the past, we couldn't. So why do we continue doing it? We continue doing it generally because it's the only number we ever have to look at. Now we've got something better. Ready for the truth, Roman? Here's what we can do if we look at the budget before we ever spend money. Let's think about that $40 game on Steam. There's the answer to the question. Have I got the money for the game? And if I do that first, as I've just done, there can only ever be two outcomes. You know how I said with home improvement and home maintenance, together they are mutually exclusive. It can only be one thing or another. Same with this. Guess what I get to see if I look at the budget first? I either see the money's in the envelope and I can spend with confidence, or the money's not in the envelope, in which case there's going to be a consequence. That's it. Confidence or consequence, no matter how much I've got in the bank. You want to make it crazy looking just to prove this point? Can I afford the $40 game? It still lies to me. It still lies to me. It enables me. The truth, no matter what the numbers, is irrelevant here because it's found here. Still nothing for a $40 game. Now, is that the end of the story, though? Do we now say that's it? Don't buy the game? No. But what I want you to do now, Roman, once you've built the habit of realizing first that there's going to be a consequence, what I want you to do now is you think about that quoted rule 3 that you've been using. I want you to use that first as well. So you know how I see rule 3 when I teach it? I use 4 little words. Find the money first. In other words, find the money from the envelope that you are willingly going to give the money up from. Face the consequence that is definitely going to happen if I buy the game. It is definitely going to happen if I buy the pizza. So face the consequences first. It is perfectly okay for me. Back to Heather's comment about sometimes missing one. It is perfectly okay for me to now make a choice that I'm going to slow that down because I want to buy a game. But you see how I've now made a conscious choice instead of just accidentally spending money that may have been more important to me. So I think that's the key one that worked for me, Roman. It was the don't just track in YNAB. Don't just turn YNAB into a record of all the stuff you've done that maybe 3 weeks ago wasn't a great idea to do it because you've just spent the car insurance money on a guitar, for example. Don't do that. Roman says this challenge becomes harder though when you budgeted, say, 60 days out ahead for bills and true expenses, which I've done. So at that point, it becomes kind of easier to think that I can take from groceries of October. Oh, okay. So you're not missing the consciousness piece there, right, Roman? You just need to maybe remind yourself the reason why you budgeted that far out. You probably did it so you could sleep at night a little better. Maybe you've got variable income like me. Because my age of money needs to hang somewhere around the 200 days mark because I've got to get through a Canadian winter and I'm a farmer. So for me, I know what you mean about having long-term future money can sometimes be tempting to take from, but remind yourself why it's there. Keep asking yourself that question. If you can keep asking the question because you're aware you're doing it, you're aware I'm taking the groceries from October to buy a game today or fun money today. It may be that that's what you've decided is the right thing for you. You might be doing really well in cutting back on takeout food, but this week's been a really bad week. So I'm going to take some money and change my mind, long as you're conscious that you're doing it. The other thing you'll find as well, if you keep doing it and you keep feeling bad about it, you'll soon realize you've got nowhere left to hide. That was kind of the way it hit me eventually in some of the areas. Eventually, there's nowhere left to hide. You just kind of go, this is why I'm not doing this is why I'm not getting out of debt faster. This is why I'm not building up more and more months ahead to be able to sleep well. This is why I'm not putting nothing. Eventually, you'll face it. And then you've got something to deal with, right? You'll get there. I know you will. Cheers, Catherine. Let's have a look at this one. Janelle, with the Delta outbreak here in Nanjing, China, I'm not sure I'm going to even be paid in October or November yet. I get paid monthly. I'm nearly a full month ahead, so I'm going to be using September's paycheck to fund October, and it's so much less stressful. I'm working on not whamming, not whack-a-moling food as much, and I'm starting to cook at home. That's the peace of mind, right? Every single first of the month, tens and tens and tens and tens, and I'm not overplaying it, right, Ben, to say probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of YNABers get to wake up on the first of the month, whatever their pay cycle, not having received a single check, and yet the whole month ahead is fully funded. That's peace of mind, and that's paycheck cycle breaking, right? And it's sitting there for people like Janelle. I hope things go well for you, Janelle. So I'm just taking a look through. We seem to be comfortable with the Wish Farm technique, at least there. We seem to be comfortable. We're happy there with the bit that was always awkward, which was the when do I spend and when do I move the money? And you had to pull the money out of the envelope and put it into the home improvement one, and then make sure you do it before you record the spending. So much easier. Is there anything else we can help with? I think we've pretty much got there, right? Ben, you don't have anything more for me that I've missed? I've been trying to keep in touch with what you've been typing over. And cheers, Ben. A big thank you to Ben. Oh, and Roman, my name's Dave. If you want to find me, or maybe more likely avoid me in the future, my name's Dave, and I normally teach on the regular workshop channel. I'm going to throw a shameless plug in here for the regular page, the schedule. That's where I normally teach, along with Ernie and along with the wonderful Lee. We have a lot of sessions there. Next week's a little bit light due to vacation, but if any of you want to pop across there, so many of you I know from here have come from over there, I recognize the names. But Ben tells me, I think we've got, yeah, Ben says, nope, I think you've got everything. Right, there we go. So thank you very much indeed for coming along, for taking the time, for asking questions, for helping each other out. This is why the live sessions work. This is what makes them different to simply a video. The wonderful Hannah, who has done a Wish Farm video a few years ago, absolutely polished it, absolutely nailed it. But yeah, we like to make sure you've got a chance to come and ask questions as well. So on behalf of Ben, on behalf of the team, and from myself up here in the northeastern end of the province of Ontario, I shall bid you a very good night.